The message arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning, broadcasting simultaneously across every communication channel on Earth. Dr. Sarah Chen was reviewing signal patterns from deep space when her monitors exploded with activity. The transmission cut through the background noise of the universe like a knife, its clarity unsettling in its perfection. To the developing world designated as Earth, the message began, its translation matrix adjusting in real time. The Dominion Alliance claims your system as its newest protectorate. Submit to immediate integration or face categorical elimination. In her laboratory at the Global Space Communications Center in Singapore, Dr. Chen's hands flew across her holographic interface, analyzing the linguistic patterns. After 15 years as Earth's leading xenolinguist, she had theorized about first contact scenarios, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. The message's structure revealed more than its creators intended: hints of arrogance, assumptions of superiority, and something else: fear. Within hours, the United Earth Defense Council convened an emergency session. Dr. Chen stood before the assembled leaders, her usually calm demeanor charged with urgency. The Dominion Alliance isn't just making a threat, she explained, projecting her analysis. They're following a pattern. This is a standardized conquest protocol, one they've likely used countless times before. Commander Marcus Rivera, recently appointed head of Earth's combined space forces, leaned forward in his seat. You're saying they're not even taking us seriously enough to craft a unique message? His weather-worn face, shaped by years of unconventional space warfare simulations, showed the first signs of a strategic mind at work. Exactly, Dr. Chen replied, highlighting specific phrases in the transmission. And that's their first mistake. They're so convinced of their superiority that they're broadcasting their technological signatures without encryption. Every transmission is giving us vital data about their systems. The council chamber erupted in heated debate. Some advocated immediate surrender, citing the apparent technological gap. Others called for desperate military action. But in the chaos, Dr. Chen noticed Commander Rivera studying the data with intense focus. Look at these energy signatures, he said, pointing to a particular pattern. Their communication system isn't just advanced, it's completely integrated. Their entire fleet must operate on the same frequency framework. A slight smile crossed his face. That's not just arrogance. That's a vulnerability. Over the next 72 hours, Earth transformed. Hidden defense installations, long prepared for theoretical alien contact, hummed to life. Dr. Chen worked without rest, diving deeper into the Dominion's language and technology. Each transmission revealed more about their systems, their hierarchy, and most importantly, their weaknesses. Commander Rivera mobilized Earth's combined space forces with unprecedented efficiency. The simulation training he'd been ridiculed for, scenarios involving asymmetric warfare against superior forces, suddenly seemed prophetic. They expect us to either surrender or attempt a conventional defense, he briefed his officers. We're going to show them something entirely different. The breakthrough came from an unexpected direction. Dr. Chen discovered that the Dominion's integrated communication system had a critical flaw. It was built on assumptions of technological uniformity. Their ships, their weapons, even their basic protocols all operated on the same principles. They had eliminated diversity in favor of efficiency. They've made themselves perfect, Dr. Chen explained to the council. But perfect systems are often the most fragile. They've never encountered a species that thinks fundamentally differently from them. We can use that. Commander Rivera's plan was audacious. Instead of preparing conventional defenses, Earth would respond with something the Dominion had never encountered. A weapon that didn't target their ships or shields, but the very framework of their communication system. As the deadline for Earth's surrender approached, the first Dominion scouts appeared at the edge of the solar system. They expected to find a primitive world cowering in fear or mounting a futile defense. Instead, they encountered silence. No response to their demands, no obvious military preparation. Just as the scout ships moved to establish their standard invasion formation, Earth launched its counterstrike. The weapon was elegant in its simplicity, a cascade of contradictory signals that exploited the rigid structure of the Dominion's communication network. Their perfectly integrated system became their greatest weakness. The scout ship's systems crashed, their crews suddenly isolated from the hive-like network they relied upon. In the confusion, Earth's forces struck with precision, using tactics that defied the Dominion's combat algorithms. Within hours, the scouts were in retreat, carrying with them a message that would shake the Dominion alliance to its core. Dr. Chen watched the aftermath with a mixture of pride and concern. "They'll be back," she said, standing beside Commander Rivera as they monitored the retreating ships. "And next time, they'll be angry." Rivera nodded, his expression grim but determined. "Good. Anger makes you predictable, and we're just getting started." As news of the victory spread across Earth, a new sense of unity emerged. Humanity had faced its first interstellar threat and proved that technological superiority wasn't everything. But this was just the beginning. The real test would come when the Dominion returned with their full might. In her lab, Dr. Chen was already preparing for the next phase, knowing that Earth's survival would depend on understanding not just the Dominion's technology, but their psychology. The coming war would be fought not just with weapons, but with ideas, and humanity's greatest strength had always been its ability to think differently. The clock was ticking. The Dominion would return, but this time, Earth would be ready with more than just a single trick. The age of humanity's isolation was over, and the galaxy was about to learn that underestimating Earth was a dangerous mistake. The Dominion's initial defeat had bought Earth precious time, but no one knew exactly how much. In the depths of the Global Space Communication Center, Dr. Sarah Chen had transformed her laboratory into a war room of linguistics and psychology. Holographic displays showed endless streams of intercepted Dominion communications, each one revealing more about their adversary's mindset. "Their language is their weakness," she explained to Commander Rivera during one of their strategy sessions. "Every phrase, every protocol reveals a civilization that values uniformity above all else. They don't just want compliance. They need it." She gestured to a particularly complex data pattern. "Their entire society is built on the assumption that diversity is chaos." Rivera studied the pattern, his tactical mind already formulating possibilities. "And chaos," he said with a slight smile, "is something humanity excels at creating." He turned to the assembled team of engineers and tacticians. "Show me what you've developed." The response to Earth's first victory had been unprecedented. Nations that had once competed now collaborated freely, sharing technologies and resources. In secure facilities around the globe, a new kind of defense system was taking shape, one that weaponized the very chaos the Dominion feared. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A young engineer from Lagos, working with quantum communication theories, discovered a way to generate signal patterns that mimic Dominion protocols while carrying hidden payloads of disrupting data. "It's like a virus," she explained, "but one that speaks their language perfectly until the moment it strikes." Meanwhile, Rivera was transforming Earth's defensive capabilities. Traditional military doctrine was abandoned in favor of what he called adaptive warfare. Ships were modified to change their signature patterns randomly, making them appear to Dominion sensors as everything from space debris to phantom fleets. "They expect us to fight like them," Rivera told his commanders, "to build bigger ships, stronger weapons. Instead, we're going to become ghosts. We'll be everywhere and nowhere, using their own technology against them." The first test of these new strategies came sooner than expected. Dominion probe ships appeared at the edge of the solar system, more sophisticated than the previous scouts. This time, they moved with careful precision, clearly wary after their earlier defeat. Dr. Chen monitored their communications with growing excitement. "They're confused," she reported. "Their protocols demand certain responses from inferior species, but we're not following any of their expected patterns. It's causing discord in their command structure." Rivera seized the opportunity. Earth's new Ghost fleet deployed, using the quantum virus to infiltrate the probe ships' networks. The effect was immediate and devastating. Ships that relied on perfect coordination suddenly found themselves acting independently for the first time in their civilization's history. The probe ships' crews, trained to function as parts of a greater whole, were paralyzed by the sudden isolation. Some fled immediately, while others remained frozen in space, waiting for orders that would never come. Earth's forces never fired a single conventional shot. In the aftermath, Dr. Chen made another crucial discovery. Hidden in the chaos of disrupted communications were fragments of internal Dominion transmissions. "They're scared," she revealed to the Council. "Not just of defeat, but of what we represent. We're a species that thrives on individual action, on chaos and adaptation. To them, we're an infection in their perfect system." Rivera understood the implications immediately. "Then let's become the infection they fear," he declared. "If they want to treat us as a disease, we'll show them just how devastating a virus can be." The next phase of Earth's defense took shape rapidly. The quantum virus was refined and expanded. Ships were equipped with systems that could not only disrupt Dominion communications, but could insert false data, creating phantom threats that would force their enemies to waste resources chasing shadows. But even as Earth celebrated these successes, Dr. Chen noticed something troubling in the latest Dominion transmissions. "They're adapting," she warned, "not their technology. They're too rigid for that. But their strategy is changing. The next attack won't be about conquest. It will be about extermination." Rivera stood at the main tactical display, watching the movements of distant Dominion fleets. "Good," he said quietly. "Let them come with everything they have. The bigger the fleet, the more devastating their fall will be." Across Earth, preparation continued with renewed urgency. The quantum virus was distributed to every ship and station. Defense platforms were hidden in elaborate orbital patterns, designed to activate in sequences that would appear random to Dominion sensors. Humanity was preparing not just to survive, but to change the very nature of space warfare. In her quiet moments, Dr. Chen reflected on the irony of their situation. The Dominion's greatest strength, their unity and technological perfection, had become their critical weakness. They had created an empire that could not comprehend, let alone counter, the chaos that humans wielded so naturally. As the first reports of major Dominion fleet movements reached Earth, Rivera gathered his commanders for final preparations. "They think they're coming to exterminate a primitive species," he told them. "Instead, they're about to learn why diversity and adaptability are the true strengths of the universe." The stage was set for a confrontation that would reshape the galaxy's understanding of power. The Dominion was bringing their full might to bear, but Earth had something far more potent than massive fleets and advanced technology. They had unpredictability, creativity, and the desperate courage that came from fighting for survival. The real war was about to begin, and humanity was ready to show the galaxy why underestimating Earth was the last mistake the Dominion would ever make. The Dominion battle fleet emerged from hyperspace like a metal storm, thousands of ships darkening the space between Mars and Jupiter. Their arrival was precisely what Dr. Chen had predicted, a show of overwhelming force designed to crush any hope of resistance. But Earth was ready. Commander Rivera stood in the new Combined Earth Defense Headquarters, buried deep beneath the Andes Mountains. The holographic display showed the Dominion fleet's formation, a perfect geometric pattern that reflected their rigid military doctrine. "They're still thinking in straight lines," he observed. "Let's show them how humans wage war." The first phase of Earth's defense plan activated silently. Quantum virus beacons, disguised as debris and hidden throughout the solar system, began their work. To Dominion sensors, the space around their fleet suddenly seemed to ripple with phantom signatures, false readings of Earth ships appearing and disappearing at random. Dr. Chen monitored the Dominion's communications from her station. "Their command structure is struggling to process the contradictions," she reported. "Their tactical computers can't distinguish between real threats and our decoys. They're being forced to think independently, and it's causing chaos in their ranks. The Dominion's response was predictable. They split their fleet into smaller groups to investigate the Phantom signatures, exactly as Rivera had anticipated. Now, he ordered, show them what real chaos looks like. Earth's true fleet emerged from hiding places throughout the asteroid belt, but they didn't attack conventionally. Instead, each ship broadcast a unique frequency that interacted with the quantum virus, creating a cascading effect through the Dominion's integrated systems. Ships that had been designed to function as perfect units suddenly found their control systems operating independently, their crews forced to make decisions they had never been trained for. But the Dominion wasn't the largest spacefaring empire in the galaxy without reason. Their command ship, a massive vessel at the heart of their fleet, began broadcasting override signals, attempting to regain control of their scattered forces. That's when the second phase of Earth's plan revealed itself. Hidden among the debris and asteroids were thousands of microsatellites, each carrying a modified version of the quantum virus. As the Dominion command ship broadcast its override signals, these satellites absorbed and reflected them back, each adding subtle corruptions to the data. The Dominion's attempt to restore order became the vector for even greater chaos. Their fleet is fragmenting, Dr. Chen announced, her voice tense with excitement. But there's something else in their communications, signals I've never seen before coming from the outer edges of their formation. Rivera's tactical display shifted, showing new signatures approaching from multiple directions. The signals were coming from ships of various designs, none matching Dominion configurations. We're not the only ones who've been waiting for this moment, he realized. Across the galaxy, other species that had been subjugated by the Dominion watched through hidden sensors as humanity did the impossible, turned the Dominion's greatest strength into a weapon against them. Some had been waiting centuries for this opportunity, and they seized it with desperate courage. Ships from a dozen different civilizations dropped out of hyperspace around the Dominion fleet. Each brought their own unique technologies and tactics, adding to the chaos that humanity had orchestrated. The Dominion's perfect formation collapsed into disorder as they faced attacks from enemies they had thought thoroughly conquered. In the command center, Dr. Chen's eyes widened as she decoded the flood of new communications. "They're thanking us," she translated. Each of these species developed their own ways to resist the Dominion, but they never had the chance to use them effectively. We showed them it was possible. The battle transformed into something unprecedented, a symphony of chaos conducted by humanity, but performed by a coalition of the formerly oppressed. Dominion ships found themselves caught between Earth's quantum attacks and the vengeful strikes of their former subjects. Their rigid tactical doctrine, designed for fighting inferior forces, proved useless against enemies who refused to follow the rules of engagement. Commander Rivera watched as the massive Dominion fleet began to break apart. Some ships retreated in disorder, while others were disabled by the combined attacks of Earth and its newfound allies. The command ship, however, remained defiant, gathering its most loyal forces for a final push toward Earth. "They're not finished," Rivera warned. "Their entire civilization is based on maintaining control. If they retreat now, they risk losing everything. They'll throw everything they have at us in one final attack." Dr. Chen nodded, already working on decoding the command ship's transmissions. "They're trying to adapt, attempting to modify their systems to resist our virus. But they can't change quickly enough without compromising the integration that makes their technology work." The battle reached its climax as the remaining Dominion forces launched a desperate charge toward Earth. But this was the moment Rivera had been waiting for. Earth's fleet, coordinating with their alien allies, executed a maneuver that would have been impossible for the rigid Dominion formations. They flowed around the enemy ships like water around rocks, each vessel acting independently, but contributing to a greater strategy. The quantum virus reached its final stage, turning the Dominion's own communication network into a weapon against them. Their perfectly integrated systems became a prison, trapping them in a cascade of conflicting commands and corrupted data. As the Dominion command ship systems finally succumbed to the combined assault, Dr. Chen intercepted their final transmission. "They're not just retreating," she announced. "They're broadcasting their defeat to every corner of their empire. The message is being relayed through their entire network. Earth is not to be underestimated." The victory was more complete than anyone had dared to hope for. The Dominion fleet was in ruins, their perfect order shattered by humanity's embrace of chaos. But more importantly, their aura of invincibility was broken. Across the galaxy, subjugated species looked to Earth with new hope, seeing proof that the mightiest empire in known space could be defeated by those willing to think differently. In the weeks following the Great Battle, the galaxy transformed. The Dominion's defeat at Earth's hands had shattered more than their fleet. It had broken the foundation of fear that held their empire together. Dr. Chen worked tirelessly in her lab, monitoring the cascade of communications spreading through Dominion space. "Their entire society is fracturing," she reported to the Earth Defense Council. "Every subjugated species that witnessed our victory is beginning to question their submission. The Dominion's control was based on the belief that resistance was impossible. We've proven otherwise." Commander Rivera studied the strategic updates flowing in from Earth's new allies. The Arctians, masters of stealth technology, were disrupting Dominion supply lines. The Kith Collective, long forced to suppress their natural telepathic abilities, were spreading unrest through the Dominion's worker populations. Each species had found its own way to strike back. "We didn't just win a battle," Rivera observed. "We started a revolution." But the Dominion's response was swift and brutal. Unable to locate and destroy all their enemies, they began implementing what they called the Unity Protocol, destroying entire worlds that showed signs of rebellion. Their message was clear: submit or face extinction. Dr. Chen discovered the truth hidden in their transmissions. "They're desperate," she explained. "Their society is built on absolute control, and now that control is slipping, they're willing to destroy half the galaxy to maintain their power over the other half." Earth found itself at the center of an interstellar resistance movement. Representatives from dozens of species arrived in secret, each bringing their own insights into Dominion weaknesses. The quantum virus was shared and modified, adapted to work with various alien technologies. Rivera coordinated these diverse forces with a strategy that would have been impossible for the rigid Dominion to comprehend. Each species fought in their own way, using their unique abilities and knowledge. There was no central command to disrupt, no single weakness to exploit. The resistance was as diverse as life itself. But the greatest challenge came from an unexpected direction. Dr. Chen detected unusual patterns in Dominion communications, signs of internal conflict. "Their leadership is divided," she revealed. "Some recognize that their empire can't survive without change, while others demand even harsher measures to maintain control." This division presented an opportunity, but also a terrible danger. The hardliners within the Dominion were pushing for deployment of their ultimate weapon, the World Breaker, a device capable of destroying entire solar systems by collapsing their stars. "They would rather rule over ashes than accept defeat," Rivera said grimly. "We need to strike before they become desperate enough to use it." Earth's scientists, working with their alien counterparts, developed a new version of the quantum virus. Instead of merely disrupting communications, this variant could rewrite the core protocols of Dominion technology. But deploying it would require getting close to the Dominion's Central Command Complex, a heavily fortified artificial world at the heart of their empire. The plan that emerged was audacious. While the various resistance forces launched coordinated attacks across Dominion space, a small team would infiltrate the Central Command. The team was as diverse as the resistance itself, humans working alongside beings they had only recently met, each bringing unique skills and perspectives. Dr. Chen insisted on joining the mission. "Their entire system is based on communication and control," she argued. "I need to be there to understand and counter their responses in real time." Rivera would lead the strike force personally. "The Dominion thinks in absolutes," he told his team. They can't comprehend an attack that doesn't follow their logical patterns. We'll show them that the greatest power in the universe isn't technology or control, it's diversity and adaptation. As the mission preparations continued, more reports arrived of Dominion worlds falling into chaos. Their perfect order was crumbling, replaced by something they had never planned for: freedom. But with this freedom came danger. The hardliners were gaining influence, pushing for use of the Worldbreaker. The Resistance had its own internal struggles. Some wanted to completely destroy the Dominion, while others argued for forcing reforms. Earth found itself in a unique position, not just as a military leader, but as a mediator between species that had never been allowed to interact as equals. Dr. Chen's linguistic expertise proved crucial in these negotiations. Every species has its own way of thinking, its own unique perspective. She explained to Rivera, "Our strength isn't just in fighting the Dominion. It's in showing the galaxy a different way to exist." The final preparations were made in secret. The infiltration team trained relentlessly, learning to combine their diverse abilities into seamless cooperation. The new quantum virus was refined and tested, ready to turn the Dominion's own technology against them one last time. As the team prepared to depart, Dr. Chen made a final discovery in the Dominion's communications. "They know something's coming," she warned. "They don't know what or how, but they're preparing for a major attack. The hardliners are using this fear to push for immediate use of the Worldbreaker." Rivera gathered his team for a final briefing. The Dominion built their empire on the idea that diversity is weakness, that only perfect unity brings strength. We're going to prove them wrong. Every difference between us, every unique perspective and ability, makes us stronger. That's humanity's gift to the galaxy. Not just resistance, but a new way of thinking. The mission was about to begin. The fate of not just Earth, but countless civilizations hung in the balance. The Dominion's perfect order was about to face its greatest challenge: beings who embraced chaos, diversity, and freedom as strengths rather than weaknesses. The artificial world that served as the Dominion's central command loomed before them, a perfect sphere of gleaming metal and pulsing energy fields. Rivera's infiltration team approached in a captured Dominion shuttle, their diversity hidden behind salvaged uniforms and sophisticated holographic disguises developed by their Arxian allies. Dr. Chen sat at the shuttle's communication array, her fingers dancing across alien controls as she wove their false credentials into the Dominion's network. The quantum virus had evolved far beyond its original form, now capable of not just disrupting but completely rewriting the very protocols that held the Dominion's empire together. "Remember," Rivera addressed his team, "timing is everything. The Resistance forces are launching their coordinated attacks across Dominion space. When their attention is divided, we strike." Reports began flooding in from across the galaxy. The Kith Collective's telepathic assault threw Dominion command structures into chaos. The Arxians' stealth ships appeared from nowhere, striking critical installations. Each species in the Resistance played its part, creating a symphony of chaos that the Dominion's rigid systems couldn't comprehend. But the hardliners within the Dominion had anticipated some form of attack. As the infiltration team docked with the central command structure, Dr. Chen intercepted urgent communications. "They're preparing the Worldbreaker," she warned. "They'd rather destroy everything than lose control." The team moved through the massive installation, their diverse backgrounds proving invaluable. And Arxian's natural stealth abilities masked their energy signatures. A Kith telepath warned of approaching patrols. Human adaptability and quick thinking helped them navigate unexpected obstacles. They reached the central core just as alarms began blaring throughout the installation. The hardliners had detected their presence and were accelerating their plans. Through the massive viewing windows, they could see the Worldbreaker powering up, a massive construct that could tear stars apart. "Their first target is Earth," Dr. Chen translated from the command feeds. "They want to make an example of us." Rivera deployed his team with practiced efficiency. While security forces converged on their position, Each member had their role to play. The Arxian disappeared into the shadows, planting sophisticated jammers. The Kith telepath reached out to the facility's worker population, many of whom had secretly harbored doubts about the Dominion's rule. Dr. Chen and Rivera fought their way to the main control center, where they would deploy the final version of the quantum virus. But they found themselves facing not just security forces, but the Dominion's supreme commander, a being encased in technology, more machine than organic life. "Your chaos ends here," the Supreme Commander announced, its voice carrying the weight of empire. "Order must be maintained, no matter the cost." What followed was a battle not just of weapons, but of ideologies. As Rivera engaged the Supreme Commander in combat, Dr. Chen raced to upload the virus. The Dominion leader fought with perfect precision, every move calculated and efficient. But Rivera's human unpredictability, his ability to adapt and improvise, kept him alive. "You fight without pattern, without proper form," the Supreme Commander declared, its mechanical voice showing the first hints of frustration. "How can you hope to achieve victory through chaos?" Rivera smiled, blood trickling from a cut above his eye. "That's exactly how we'll win. Chaos isn't our weakness, it's our strength." At that moment, Dr. Chen completed the upload. The quantum virus spread through the Dominion's networks like wildfire, but this time it did more than disrupt. It rewrote the fundamental protocols that had kept the Empire's technology under centralized control. Throughout the galaxy, Dominion ships and installations suddenly found themselves free from the rigid constraints that had bound them. The Supreme Commander staggered as its own systems began to change. "What have you done?" it demanded, its perfect voice breaking into more natural tones. "We've given your people a choice," Dr. Chen explained, her voice firm but compassionate. "The same choice every species deserves, the freedom to think and act for themselves." The world breaker, moments away from firing, went dark. Throughout the facility, centuries of absolute control began to crumble. The worker populations, inspired by the Kith telepath's message of freedom, rose up against their overseers. But instead of the bloody revolution the hardliners had feared, something remarkable happened. Species that had been forced to suppress their individuality for generations began to express themselves. Dominion citizens, freed from the constraints of their technology, discovered their own capacity for independent thought. The rigid hierarchy that had defined their civilization for millennia transformed into something new. Rivera's team regrouped, watching as the artificial world that had been the heart of an empire became the birthplace of a new order. Not the perfect, controlled order of the Dominion, but something more chaotic, more alive. A true galactic community where differences were celebrated rather than suppressed. Dr. Chen worked with representatives from hundreds of species, including reformed Dominion citizens, to establish new forms of communication and cooperation. The quantum virus was reproposed, its code becoming the foundation for a network that connected civilizations while preserving their uniqueness. "We didn't just defeat an empire," Rivera observed as they prepared to return to Earth. "We showed the galaxy a new way to exist, one that draws strength from diversity rather than fearing it." Earth emerged from the conflict not as a conqueror, but as a symbol of hope. Humanity's greatest contribution to the galaxy wasn't their technology or their military prowess, but their fundamental understanding that true strength comes from embracing chaos, celebrating differences, and facing the unknown with adaptability and courage. The Dominion's perfect order had given way to something far more beautiful, a galaxy where countless species could coexist, each contributing their unique perspectives and abilities to a greater whole. And at the heart of this new era stood Earth, no longer a primitive world at the edge of space, but a beacon of innovation and freedom for all civilizations. As their ship turned toward home, Dr. Chen looked out at the transformed galaxy with wonder. "They thought our chaos would be our downfall," she mused. "Instead, it became our greatest gift to the universe." Rivera nodded, understanding that this was just the beginning. Humanity had helped birth a new age of exploration and discovery, where the only constant was change itself, and in that perpetual change lay the seeds of infinite possibility.